Hello and welcome back to the channel. So you currently join me from RSPB Titchwell Marsh on another beautiful summer's day in July in the UK. As you've guessed it, we've had nothing but rain the last few days, which is really frustrating because I've got the G9ii from Lumix till the 28th of this month, and what I really want is to have constant rubbish weather and rain. Anyway, I'm a little bit kind of under the weather today as well as the weather. My cat decided to bring in the biggest wolf spider I've ever seen in my life at 1:30 in the morning, and then at about 2 o'clock in the morning she decided to bring me a mouse. So yeah, I've not had a lot of sleep. I'm really grumpy, and if I come across that way, I don't apologise because yeah, I'm really tired. So yeah, the reason I'm at Titchwell itself is because there's a lot of birds. Obviously there's a lot of terns, a lot of gulls, a lot of waders. That will help me test out the autofocus abilities on the G9ii. So I probably plan to use the animal eye subject detection, and really it's just a way of testing out the autofocus and, you know, seeing what kind of results I'll get. I'm not expecting anything amazing in the actual terms of images. I mean, it is dreadfully dreary. I think the ISO is going to be pretty high today, but really it's just an autofocus test, and if anything it's probably a harder test because of the light. So yeah, I can talk too much in these intros, so let's go do some bird photography. So the chap at the visitor centre said there's a 70% chance of rain at 11 o'clock. That's in about 10 minutes, so I need to go get to the hide as quickly as possible. So I've literally only been here about 5 minutes, and I've basically taken 10 shots of the first gull that came close to me. I have 8 shots in perfect focus, so out of 10 shots, so that's 80%. And the shot that I got of the gulls, the original G9, it wouldn't even have focused on it. Just from experience in that situation, already, just off of trying to get one gull in flight. This is game changing. I'll see if I can show you. So here's the burst taken at 20 frames a second. And it only lost him here as he was going out of the frame. There. All the others are in focus. And just a point to note, it's probably because he wandered out of this central zone that I've got set up here. So yeah, 8 out of 10. If that zone was bigger, that would have been 10 out of 10. So I'm now in Panasonic hide, and I spent a lot of time in island hide, and yeah, it turns out it didn't actually rain in the end. But yeah, this has been, I've spent so much time photographing, I didn't even really get a chance to think about video because the autofocus on this is just addictive. The fact that I can now, one, get focus on a bird, I can track the bird, lock focus. It's incredible. It's like cheat mode. And yeah, I've just got tons and tons of images, and on my, like I said, on my first 10 shots, getting 8 in focus, and the 2 that are out of focus were my own fault. So yeah, it's so addictive. I can't really get into sort of words or in this video how excited I am about using this camera. It's like God mode. It feels like I'm cheating. I'm using that sort of one autofocus area to get hold of the bird, and it's the focus is that sensitive that even terns, common terns are a tiny little bird, and even at sort of huge distances of like 200-300 meters, the autofocus was picking it up and tracking it. So yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. And what I actually got a chance to do is quickly use the pre-burst feature. So I switched to 20 frames a second pre-burst because a little wagtail landed on the path in front of me. He took off, I hit the shutter thinking, oh, that was far too late, and lo and behold, I've got the shots, they're in focus. I just couldn't do this with the G9. I'm not one for recommending people spend money when they really don't need to, but I can confidently say that any G9 owners, if you can afford it, or even if you can't afford it, get it. The G9ii is such a massive step ahead in autofocus. Naturally, I haven't really got anything to compare it with. I haven't got a Canon or a Sony camera or Nikon camera with me to compare it. But right now, the difference isn't night and day. It's day and I don't know. It's really good, basically. I've moved hides just because there's only so much of the same birds that you can photograph. So I'm gonna spend some time in here, potentially go down to the beach. What I want to do, I've got a few scenarios where I've made it purposely hard for the autofocus. So I've tried to have complex backgrounds behind the birds, but that hasn't really seemed to trip it up. I'm trying to think of a scenario that the only scenario that seems to trip up the autofocus is on some of the birds, particularly the avocets, the little black bits of their feathers that can make the autofocus think that's their eye. So yeah, that's the only real issue. Anything that looks like an eye, it will latch onto. The fix for that is just to switch to body detect or single area. But yeah, I am so impressed with this camera. I feel like we're now on equal footing. Yeah, it's incredible. Well, the only problem I have now is battery life. Mirrorless cameras, including this one, don't do too well at that. So I'm currently charging it off of a power bank. Now if it was my own camera, I'd have spare batteries, but I've only got one. So yeah, needs must. So I've moved to the other side of parandahyde, and what I'm waiting for now is a fast moving bird like an avocet or potentially even a lapwing to take off, which at the minute it's just all the gulls. But yeah, just really want to test the autofocus on some of these really fast moving birds, because from initial findings it locks on really quick. And one thing I've noticed that in a lot of reviews, I've noticed in the reviews with the OM1 versus the G9ii is people saying that the autofocus acquisition is slow on this, but as long as you pre-focus roughly on where the bird is, the autofocus just picks it up and it's not really an issue. I don't know whether that's perhaps people's lack of experience with the autofocus system, but yeah, obviously if you're focused far away and a bird is close, it's going to struggle to pull that focus. But as long as you roughly pre-focus on where your subject is, haven't seen acquisition speed be a problem. But yeah, just need to review the images on a computer because they do look really sharp in the EVF and on the back screen, but the big screen is the real test. So yeah, let's see if I can get some of these avocets or lapwings. Here we go, so here's a burst of 44 images of the lapwing. Still in focus. Still in focus. And these are fast moving birds, and it's only out of focus here because he's completely left the autofocus zone. The zone is in the middle. So yeah, effectively every frame in focus, and the ones that weren't, user error. So I just accidentally found something that I don't like about the camera. So because I'm having to charge the camera via my little power bank, because I've only got one battery that was sent to me from Lumix, and yeah, the little door is really fiddly to get open and looks really flimsy. I'm sure it's absolutely fine, but I'm sure the one on the G9 just feels like it was designed a bit better. So yeah, really hard to get that open, which is kind of annoying. Although if or when I get this camera, I'll obviously probably buy 3 spare batteries for it, because yeah, these modern mirrorless cameras just chew through batteries like it's nothing. That's the only thing I don't like so far, because I'm constantly having to charge the camera up via USB. Not a problem with the camera, it's just a unique problem I'm having today. So what I'm doing now is I've taken the camera out of subject detection. So I just have the AF mode is in zone, so there's no subject detection. And let me find a goal. Yep, it's found it. Yep, and it got him no problem. So if I just zoom in 4 times, you can see he's in focus. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to use the subject detection. I find it works just that little bit better. But yeah, for scenarios where perhaps the autofocus doesn't want to focus on the eye, or it doesn't recognize the bird, obviously the non-detect modes are still quite useful and still a billion times better than the original G9. I've got to say, it makes me nervous only having 2 bars of battery, which is about 40%. It means that I've really got to play things carefully, whereas normally I'd just put a new battery in and would be good. Not too much going on at the minute. I'm gonna head to the beach. So I'm now back in the van. I had to abandon the beach run because the G9ii ran out of battery. I wasn't using the cable that Panasonic had supplied. I was using a standard USB-C from my Pocket 2. So I don't know whether that slowed down the charging ability, but yeah, it started raining and I figured I've achieved what I've set out to achieve today. So yeah, autofocus is night and day's difference compared to the G9. It's absolutely it's hard to put into words how much better it is. Like I said, I haven't got another manufacturer to compare it to, but if I take user error out of the equation, I'm probably looking at about a 90 or greater % chance of getting the birds in focus, which is absolutely incredible. Now, it's a funny day's photography. A lot of the more interesting birds were on the ground quite a lot, so a lot of the shots were of gulls, which they're really helpful because terns and gulls are extremely fast. They're quite hard for the autofocus, but I mean, they weren't hard for this autofocus. You literally just aim the camera, they would wander into the box, draw a box around them, and quite often an eye. You'd hit the shutter, it would take shots, and if anything, it felt like God mode. It felt like you'd got some sort of cheat code. Like I said, I've been using the G9 for 5 years, and a lot of people say, you know, the G9's fine for birds in flight, and I'll be honest, I just disagree with that. The G9ii is what you want, basically. I don't know the format of the video, how I'll do it. I don't know whether I'll perhaps take you through the images that I got today in Lightroom and kind of analyze them that way. I don't know whether I'll edit some and put the best ones up at the end of the video. I'm not too sure on that. But yeah, sadly, I don't have an external recorder. I know some of the bigger channels, they've got an external recorder and you can actually see what I'm doing in the camera when I'm taking photos. That's something that I love the idea of, but it's even more money. I mean, I'm already looking at wanting to get the G9 II, another lens. I'm now paying for Lightroom. I want to get the DaVinci Resolve Studio version. There's just a non-stop list of things that I want for wildlife photography, and I'm not a professional, and by that I mean that it's not my main job. I have 5 years left in the military, then I'll get my pension. It doesn't make sense, and yeah, it definitely does not make sense to switch to becoming a professional, because I'd be poor very, very quickly. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have found it helpful, please hit it with a thumbs up. Please also consider subscribing and hitting the notification button. That'll let you know whenever I put out a new video. And yeah, you can also buy me a coffee. And if you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments. I am pretty hot on my Lumix cameras, so even though this is a new camera to me, if you've got any particular questions about it, please drop those in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching, and till next time.